Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to Tool Show with me, Master Dan, the Journeyman shooter. And today we're going to do one of our little coffee time segments. It's kind of a wild sky out there right now. It looks like the end of the world in some places over there. But that's why I figured I'd come out here, because the other side of the sky is just as nice, and that's a beautiful background to shoot a little segment with. And I figured we'd talk about something, and I didn't really know what until I kind of got over here, and figured I'd just kind of go on the spot. And most of these are unscripted when I'm talking with the coffee time segments, and really there's not much of a script anyways. I'm just kind of writing something down that's an idea that I wanted to talk about and what I figured would be cool. And now some of the stuff that I like to talk about are positive things and things that are going to kind of help you out in life. And one of the things I love in life is there's certain books that kind of help you out. Books are kind of they're a little bit out of date now, especially with the internet and with phones and Google and all the other crazy stuff. You don't really need them anymore, and they're kind of going the way of the dinosaur. But there are still some good books that are kind of out there, and there's one book that I personally love. I know it's a really old book, so you kind of have to make do with it, but my dad, I don't know if he read it in some kind of magazine at work, probably some Playboy or something like that. I can't normally say names, but I'm not affiliated with them, but it was probably, now that they're not showing pictures or anything that are out of inappropriate, but it was some kind of magazine that he read at work, and he's a construction worker, so he's kind of read about it, and I think they suggested this book that it's a way that most people can succeed. Normally it's tough to succeed, and there's lots of different self-help books and all the other kind of stuff that's out there, but my dad told me, I remember he came in one day and he set the book down and he set it on the table, and he said, "I'll give you $100 if you read this book." And I said, "Oh, okay, sure." So of course I read the book, and sure enough, it was the greatest book I'd ever read, and I ended up not even taking the money. I told him, "You can keep the money," because it actually helped me out much more than I could have imagined. It was a great book and a great learning lesson, and it actually was pretty awesome. So I didn't end up taking the money, but I left it there. And now I know you're probably wondering, what the heck is this book? What's the secret to success? And I personally don't know the secret to success, but this book has helped millions and millions of people over the years. I think it's sold 100 million copies since it first came out in the 30s or whatever, but it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it's a great book. It's by Dale Carnegie. He's one of the Carnegie families from Carnegie Hall. And there's a famous joke where a tourist goes to New York and he says to a local, he says, "Hey, how do you get to Carnegie Hall?" And that local turns to him and he says, "Well, you got to practice." And that's what I'm doing here, because Warren Buffett, he always said that too. He's self-made billionaire, one of the richest men on earth, and he always said, if you want to be good at something, you have to practice it. You can't just expect to be great at something. You got to actually work for it. So that's why we're doing our little coffee time segment here. This is all practice for me, and I just figured it'd be a nice day to kind of practice about it. But I really like that book, the How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I remember I've always kind of gone by that. When I still work with people, I'll read it all the time, but all the time before at work, I would read it every morning before I went to work, and it would kind of give me some good ideas of how to handle situations in the day, there's chapter notes at the end of every chapter, and that's what I'd read every day. I wouldn't read the exact same full book every day, but I'd read the chapter notes because they're great. They're great life lessons. They're great ways to think about the world and great ways to kind of treat people, I guess. If you want to be a leader, you have to know how great leaders did in the past, and that's what this book kind of tells you. And one of the best lessons out of the book, and I'm kind of surprised I haven't talked about the book before, since now this is the first coffee time that I've talked about it in 25 or whatever, but the book, one of my favorite parts of it is there's a certain rule. It's called the 3 C's, and these are things that you don't do. You don't do any of these C's, and part of that is the 3 C's are: you don't criticize, you don't condemn, and you don't complain. So there's the 3 C's: don't criticize, don't condemn, and don't complain. Now, I know it's really easy to criticize, and as Homer Simpson would say, it's really fun to criticize too. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to criticize people, because it's just not right. Nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes, and everybody has issues, and criticizing somebody is not going to make it any better. You can try to help them. That's one thing I've always saw in the past, is people always kind of made fun of if I did something wrong or if something was going wrong with somebody else. They'd just sit there and laugh and make fun of the poor person, but really, why not help? And I'd always do that. I'd always catch people making fun of somebody, and it's like, well, why aren't you guys helping them? And so I'd go over, help them, finish it up real quick, and do it twice as nice, because you got two people doing something that's easier, and it takes the pressure off that person who's just going one mistake after the next. And those things tend to multiply, and especially when people are making fun of you and criticizing what you're doing or condemning how you're doing it. Like, certain ways, there's a billion different ways to do everything in life, and nobody's perfect. Nobody's life is amazing. There's certain people that you should emulate, and that's it. You got to have mentors, and you got to have people that are teaching you valuable lessons and life lessons and skills that you can use later on in life. But there's a lot of stuff that you can and you can't, but you can't criticize the way that people do their stuff. You can't condemn the way they do their stuff, because everybody's got their own opinions and their own, feelings. And if you hurt somebody's feelings, it's tough, because in the trades, you're supposed to have thick skin. When you're a tradesman or a tradeswoman, there's going to be always somebody that's making fun of you or picking on you or treating you badly or criticizing your work, or nothing's ever good enough for some people, and that's fine. And that's what you should have sometimes. You should have that higher respect for what you're doing, and you should have that pride in what you do. But there's also a point where you can't really keep making fun of people. It's not going to do anything. And complaining, that's the final thing. Everybody's in the same boat. You can't complain about something if everybody's in the same boat. I remember I was always so cold working in Alberta when we were out in the oil patch or out on some frozen lake or in the middle of nowhere, and you're cold, and it's cold outside, and it's snowy and rainy and all the other mess that you're dealing with, and you got a hole in your boot or something's wrong, and it's just one mistake after the next and everything's bad. But everybody else is dealing with the same things, so everybody else has the same problems, the same cold hands, the same issues, and that's it. You just got to make the most out of that day. Next day, that night, go get yourself some gloves and make sure you get yourself good boots with some good socks, because especially if you're cold. And that's one of the worst parts about it, is I'd always find that hole in my boots or that hole in my pants or something like that as soon as I was out in the freezing cold weather. But you're not going to be comfortable, and nobody around you is comfortable if they hear you complaining about it all day. And so you just want to try to make the most out of it. You got to try to work hard, and you got to try to still do your job. And there's a lot of things that are going to be tough. There's a lot of issues you're going to face in a day, and there's a lot of stuff dust. I hate dust, and I hate all the construction issues that you're going to find. Like, there's this asbestos and insulation and itchy stuff that kind of gets all over you, and grime and grease and everything you can imagine. But you can't complain about it, because that's the trades. That's the life that you kind of got into. But you're going to get something out of it eventually, and you got to just keep thinking of it that way. It's a tough life. It's not like it's clean or easy, but you can't complain about it. It's part of the world. You're building lessons, you're building life skills, you're building, the world. When you do construction, that's what you do. You build stuff, and you're part of a team. You're building everything, and everybody's kind of around you is on the same boat. So if one guy's walking around all mopey and complaining about how bad the world is, then that's too bad. The world kind of sucks for everybody, so you got to make the most out of it. You can't just let that one guy bring you down. You got to say, hey, turn it around. Let's be positive. Let's have a positive attitude. Positive things accomplish positive results. So why not? Just don't give up. You can't give up. What's it going to accomplish getting down? Especially once you start getting down, it's just basically a roller coaster where you're just continuing down and up a little bit, and you just keep getting down because you're not positive. You don't have that the thoughts that you should have. So you can't criticize, condemn, or complain, and that's part of the rules. So from the How to Win Friends and Influence People, I recommend getting that book. Check it out, Dale Carnegie. It's available everywhere. So that's it. So the 3 C's: don't criticize, condemn, or complain. And for Tool Show, I'm Master Dan, the Journeyman Shooter. Get out there, try to live a positive life, and don't complain, don't criticize, and don't condemn. Thank you so much.